Today we have another flashlight on the table, and this time it's the Acebeam E70 Mini. This is an 18650 powered flashlight with a very unique take on the E-switch. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, Acebeam sent out this flashlight a little bit over about a month ago. I've had it in and out of my pocket since then, and they've done a couple things with it that I think kind of set it apart from other E-switch flashlights that use a tail button. What they've done here with the user interface allows it to not necessarily need lockout all the time, because most E-switches, like say the Noctagon KR4 for instance, they have a very gentle press. If you just barely touch them, they're on. So they always have to be in lockout. The solution that Acebeam came up with is really clever. I want to get to that, but I just want to emphasize that's one of the things we're going to focus on. Now, as you can see, this is a very slick looking light. They really done a lot of nice finishing work and clearly wanted to dial up the look aspect of it. It shows incredibly well and very, very comfortable in the pocket. I actually really like this pocket clip, even though it's not my preferred reversible. It's still fantastic. It slips into the pocket very well, and it hasn't caught on anything so far. Knock on wood. Anyway, this uses 3 Nietzsche 519A emitters. And what's neat about that is these are high CRI emitters. They're incredibly efficient. So you're going to get 2,000 lumens of output, but also have high CRI. That's a really impressive combination. Now, the way this is set up, and any flashlight that is set up like this, whether it's the Noctagon KR4 or other flashlights, these are going to be very floody in nature, right? You're going to get a very wide beam and a very intense amount of light up close. But when you start going a further distance, you're not going to get as much light traveling. So this is definitely something that is going to be good for you working in a close space, in a room, in anything up to maybe 50 or 60 meters. You're not going to want to go anything past that to really utilize it, even in its maximum output form. Now we'll get back to the comparisons at the end. I want to really focus heavily on the user interface for this because they've done a really good job. The first thing you can do from off is get access to a moonlight mode, their lowest mode. They're calling it Eco. It's a little bit higher than what I would call a normal moonlight. I think it's around 12 to 20 lumens, give or take. We'll have to look up the exact stats. In fact, we'll put them all right here. And there are going to be 6 standard outputs along with the strobe mode with this flashlight. So this is the first level. And if we turn it off, which is a single press, we then have to get into the main outputs. And the way we do that, and this is the thing I really like about this flashlight, is you have to double press, not single press. So if I just press it one time on this flashlight, nothing happens, which is great. But if I quickly double press, I will come in on my last memorized mode of 4. So 1, hold press, 2, 3, 4, and then back to the first one. All right. Now to access turbo from off, you actually have to double press twice. So double press turns it on, double press goes straight to turbo. So it's a little bit more difficult to get to turbo than many other flashlights. And if you are in a panic, you can simply triple press and you'll get the maximum output in strobe. 1, 2, 3, and there you go. So that's kind of the way it works in general. It's really not that complicated, but just the added benefit of having the double press has made it so I have never had this come on, even without the lockout, which is pretty amazing. So I really, really like that. Really, really fantastic. And if I remember correctly, I think if you hold it for long enough, it'll actually lock itself out. There you go. And now it's in lockout mode, and then you cannot turn it on without unlocking it. So you have to hold press for a long time, and then it will go ahead and shut itself off. And then once again, when you want to turn it back on, you just hold the button until it flashes, and then you're back to working, and it will stay on in the low mode. Very, very simple but effective user interface for this. Decent outputs, especially for a high CRI light. This is definitely one of those tint lovers kind of lights. It's not necessarily going to be good for defensive purposes, but it has worked very, very well daily as a daily driver for tasks that come up during the day. So I really, really do like this flashlight. What else is there to say? I mean, honestly, they have done a really fantastic job with the way this is built. You can get this in both aluminum and titanium. But truthfully, I would stick to the aluminum. It's going to be much more effective. And at 2000 lumens, the heat that's generated will be diffused much, much easier in an aluminum body, and you'll have better, well, it's just going to function better in aluminum than it will in titanium. That's not to say it's not beautiful, but definitely recommend doing that. You might also notice on the body there's little slots. These are for tritium vials. If you want to pimp out this light even further, you can actually do that. So definitely impressive to me. What else can we say here? Let's go ahead and do some comparisons. First with other eSwitch flashlights. So we have the Warrior Mini 2. We have the Noctagon KR4. We have the Sofirn SC32, which is also an eSwitch. And you'll notice that this kind of runs in the middle of the length. Now, all four of these flashlights are actually powered by the same battery type, the 18650, but they all are a little bit different in how they function. So these two are quite a bit more similar than the other two. These have barrels inside that allow the connection between the tail switch and the front. That's how that works. And I think the same thing is true with the Acebeam. You know what? I'm going to double check that. Pretty sure, though, that is also the case. Yeah, you can see the secondary barrel on the inside, right? That's how the tail switch communicates, and is why the barrel itself is a little bit wider. Now, the Olight Warrior Mini 2 goes about this in a completely different manner. It uses the battery itself as a communications device between the tail switch and the electronics in the front of the flashlight. That's why the barrel is much narrower than you will see for these other flashlights. That's also why they need the proprietary battery. That's a big part of it. Now, this is probably my most carried larger flashlight. It has that reversible pocket clip I need most of the time. But in truth, when it comes to user interface, I don't think either one of these is bad. What I liked about the Warrior Mini 2 is that it functions kind of also as a defensive light. But the Acebeam does not really do that. It's not trying to be anything other than a really good EDC offering. Because to get access to the turbo, you have to double press once, and then you have to double press again. That's a lot more steps than simply, in this case, it's in the TAC mode, so you just hold press for momentary turbo. Much, much simpler and easier to access while still having the side switch that then activates all the other modes, right? And so I can then use that to use the EDC functions, as it were. I still really like this though. And the thing about these flashlights, this is not coming with a beautiful high CRI set of emitters. And it's definitely not going to be as floody. So if you want a floody beam, this is a very, very good option. And yeah, kind of similar to the Noctagon KR4 in that it has that kind of floody setup. And I like it, honestly, for the button and the way it turns on. I kind of prefer the Acebeam to something like this. And the reason is I always have to leave this flashlight in lockout. The button is far too easy to accidentally press. So really nice solution that Acebeam's come up here. And it's a good offering. It still comes in lower than the cost of the Warrior Mini 2, even though it has such nice overall features. It even has little slots for tritium if you want to, pimp it out a little bit. But my guess is that with 12 slots for tritium, you're going to spend more on tritium than the flashlight itself. Just keep that in mind. So the user interface allows me quick access to both the Moonlight and the Turbo. I say quick, but at least I understand how to get access to it directly. Double press again, and I'm in Turbo. Hold press for Moonlight. The most important for this particular flashlight is going to be Moonlight so that you don't blow out your vision when you are walking around in the dark. So very, very cool offering. I don't have much to say. I mean, I would love to have a reversible clip on this. I think that would make it far more useful to me. But in truth, these are pretty large flashlights, all of them. The Warrior Mini 2 is already pushing that envelope of being too heavy. So it's not the end of the world. And truthfully, this clip has performed very, very well, and it hasn't bent, nor has it gotten hooked on anything. It's laid particularly flat against my pants pocket. So well done by Acebeam. I think this is definitely a decent offering that you might want to check out if you're in the market for this style of light, which is a true close proximity, high CRI flashlight. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk again soon.